Suddenly, from the sea, we saw the slowly water just started to come to the land. It is not so strong. But we scared because we never seen. Only thing I remember, people took their children, they just started to run along the road. Everybody follow each other, but nobody know what's going on.
අනිවිඩයා මූද ගොඩ ගලනවා කියලා. දැන් එක එක්කෙනයි කට කතන්දර වලින් තමා එන්නේ මූද ගොඩ ගලනවා කියලා.
වයස 5 3 වගේ අවස්ථාවේ ළමයි හිටියේ. මම ඒක තමයි දැක්ක. ඒක ඉතින් හරි අමාරුයි ඒ වෙලාවට අර අපිටුමත් ඒක දරා ගන්න.
The Galle National Hospital is a leading hospital located in Sri Lanka's south. Its staff make tremendous efforts to save lives. However, one of their most challenging days dawned 20 years ago. December 26th, 2004 is known as the most horrific day that the hospital staff had ever experienced. That day saw the hospital premises overflowing with dead bodies. The morgue and hospital corridors were up to capacity. There were bodies strewn across everywhere, even in open spaces. Nimal Karunatilaka was the on-duty coroner at the hospital when it happened.
එදා දවස වැඩ යෙදিলা තිබුණේ මටයි.
I was the officer on duty that day. At about 9 in the morning, I sat down for a death inquiry. As I remember, there was only one dead body at the time.
මට මතකයි අතර මම මෙතන වාඩි වෙලා එක මරණයක්.
As the inquiry was taking place, all of a sudden, the hospital was engulfed in turmoil. I couldn't figure out what was going on.
හිතාගන්න බැරුණා මොකද්ද මේ වෙන්නේ කියලා. පස්සේ නලා ශබ්දදා අඩිගුල.
Later, ambulances were rushed out of the hospital with sirens on. Everyone kept saying that the sea was overflowing. We went about with our work.
මොහොත ගොඩ ගලලා කියන එක කොහොමද?
Not even half an hour later, the hospital was launched into turmoil once again as ambulances and other vehicles began streaming in, carrying dead bodies. As the bodies kept piling up and flooding the hospital in their hundreds, the hospital administration knew it had to expeditiously release the bodies to loved ones of the deceased.
The saddest sight I witnessed was the dead bodies of children. It was quite an unbearable sight, even for us. I ended up releasing over 200 dead bodies on the first day alone.
2 hours after the earthquake hit the west coast of Indonesia's Sumatra Islands, at exactly 9:26 in the morning, the tidal wave, travelling at 800 kilometers per hour, hit Sri Lanka's coastline. 14 coastal districts were ravaged. The death toll stood at around 35,000, with 5,000 still considered missing.
Our next problem is to how to keep these bodies without being, to prevent decomposition. Then we were trying to get ice blocks, but all ice factories were damaged. They all were located very close to the coastal belt. The next option, we had limited amount of formalin, and what we did, we got some diluted formalin solution, and we started soaking dead bodies twice a day, morning and evening, to prevent them being decomposed. And we used some unorthodox methods like the banana leaves and others to keep the bodies which were on the ground. We put banana leaves under that. That is one of the traditional techniques in villages in Sri Lanka where embalming is not available. and we recorded all the bodies, recorded their marks, any identification mark, their face look. Within 48 hours we were able to release around 1000 dead bodies. There were around 450 unidentified bodies.
Stories of the disaster have been told since I was a young girl. Now, as a reporter, looking back, I bear witness to the myriad of ways in which countless lives have been completely shattered, and how 20 years on, the impact of that wave lingers. The Thelvatta incident in Gaul marked one of the darkest chapters of our story. On the morning of December 26, 2004, the train bearing engine number 50 had just passed the Thelvatta railway station.
The train was not able to travel much further. Exactly in Pereliya, the train was hit by a massive tsunami wave, killing almost 2,000 people and making it the deadliest train disaster in the world. Now, the Pereliya region falls under the Gaul district of Sri Lanka. Therefore, this devastating incident that occurred in the Gaul district in Pereliya made Gaul one of the hardest hit districts of Sri Lanka during the tsunami of 2004.
Whilst the train was en route to Pereliya, a never-before-seen sight gripped the town. One of hundreds of people running from the seaside towards inland. The train was forced to stop as people ran towards its massive structure in their numbers across the railway track, which runs along the coastline. As the train drew to a sudden halt, the fleeing people saw this as a means to save their lives. They scrambled aboard, joining the passengers who were already on the train. By the time the second tsunami wave hit, even the roof of the train was crowded with hundreds of people. The train's massive frame was no match for the fierce foes of nature. Train compartments were shattered by the wave's impact like a hapless toy. 2,000 people lost their lives in Pereliya. This continues to be known as the largest single rail disaster in the world. Kamini lives not too far away from where this disaster took place. Her house, which was destroyed in the tsunami, has now been converted into a memorial museum. Kamini, through this act of memorialization, poses the question: has history not taught us anything?
You can see there is a tent. It's a tent after tsunami, we live in that tent. But that moment worlds come together, help each other. Then slowly people start life again.
This is Hikkaduwa, a popular tourist destination in Sri Lanka. And right here is the Colombo-Galle main road. Now, despite exploring the entire area, we were not able to find a single signboard directing people to safe locations in the event of another tsunami. Both the Colombo-Galle main road and the coastal railway line run along here. If a tsunami occurs ever again, how can anyone, a visitor, a foreigner, or even a local, find a safe place?
After the devastation caused by the tsunami, the coastal area residents were resettled in the interior part of the land. Tsunami warning towers were erected and signboards were set up to direct people to safe locations in case of another tsunami. However, now, houses line with some of the coastal areas which were once deemed uninhabitable due to the risk factor. Although 77 tsunami warning towers were established across the island, at the end of 2023, only 20 of them remained functional. As the technology used in these towers is now obsolete, the manufacturers also no longer produce related equipment. The Disaster Management Center says that a new system has been introduced in collaboration with mobile and landline telephone service providers. The great historical chronicle of Sri Lanka, the Mahavamsa, in its text, draws reference to the sea overflowing in Sri Lanka as far back as 2nd century BC. However, no one had believed that this could actually happen until that fateful day in December 2004. With no warning and no understanding of what was happening in the seas of Sri Lanka, the lives of its people were forever marred. History repeated itself once. Do we not then have a collective responsibility to equip ourselves to deal with any such future disasters in the event they may occur? Now, as the waves of the beach gently caress the land's shores, present-day Sri Lanka calls for more stern, affirmative action. Comprehensive evacuation routes mapped out across the coastal region, comprehensible signboards to direct people to safe locations in the event of a disaster, the need for fully functional tsunami warning towers are only a few of the basic measures that should already be in place. Protecting the dignity and the joy of the people whose lives have already been thrown into disarray once must not be an afterthought. If this shift isn't made now, the gates of death will continue to remain open.